This current president of the United States is 81 years old and has COVID. Should he be fine in a couple of days? Doesn't that convey exactly the same thing?
No. No, it doesn't.
Okay. I mean, are you serious, Joy? Are you serious? I mean,
Ana Kasparian and Cenk Uygur absolutely destroyed woke Joy Reid for saying just absolutely insane things about the Trump assassination attempt, about Joe Biden, and just about this next election in general. The title of this video from the Young Turks says, MSNBC's Joy Reid says the indefensible about Trump, which is just nuts that people from the Young Turks are even defending Donald Trump at all. Ana Kasparian is really changing that whole network. You know, over the last couple, honestly, years at this point, she's been going more towards this side of things, coming towards the light a bit more. But as of the last few months, she's really, you know, coming through on these things. She's really coming to the light. She's really getting red pilled on these certain situations, which is trickling down to Cenk Uygur and to these other people at the Young Turks. Now, the Young Turks fans are not liking it very much. So Ana Kasparian is getting canceled pretty much daily every single time they post a video like this, but she doesn't seem to care. And I think that the fan base of the Young Turks is also changing quite a bit. Let's get into this video here of Ana Kasparian absolutely destroying Joy Reid for saying absolutely nuts things about Donald Trump.
These two men are both elderly. Donald Trump is an elderly man who, for whatever reason, was given 9 seconds to take a iconic photo op during an active shooter situation. Weird situation. We'll figure that out one day. But his survival of that and bouncing right back and going right to his convention is being conveyed in the media world as a sign of strength. This current president of the United States is 81 years old and has COVID. Should he be fine in a couple of days? Doesn't that convey exactly the same thing?
No. No, it doesn't.
Okay. I mean, are you serious, Joy? Are you serious? I mean, these MSNBC hosts look totally unhinged. Several of them, including Joy Reid, were questioning if the event was staged in a sense. They're like, oh, it's a really weird coincidence. What's going on? And look at what she said. For 9 seconds was allowed to do a photo. He's the president of the United States. He just got shot. And
Former president of the United States.
Yeah, I got you. But the former presidents are still called president.
Right.
And so you're begrudging him putting up his fist after he got shot. First of all, that's just nuts. Second of all, any of these things like, oh, isn't it curious how they stage things? No, you're egging on people on your side to think crazy things.
Conspiracy theory.
Yeah, Michael Steele did the same thing, again, on MSNBC. They're starting to really sound like the MAGA version, on the Democratic side, for sure. And then what kind of lunatic thing is it to say, oh, you got COVID, you got shot, it's the same thing? No, it's not. I had COVID.
That's that brainwashing, man. These people, they're brainwashed to think COVID is like the worst thing ever. They really are. It's really, it's a bad cold. I've had it a few times. It's not fun, but it's not comparable to being shot. Like Joy Reid, MSNBC used to be the Young Turks, but now Ana Kasparian and Cenk are starting to come around on things a little bit. They're all brainwashed. They don't see reality like normal humans see reality anymore. They're blinded by TDS.
COVID a couple of weeks ago. It was a normal cold. So look, COVID now is, especially if you're, I get it. He's 81 and it's a little bit more of a risk. And God knows what happened. I hope nothing happens to President Biden. And something could happen. But getting a cold is not the same thing as getting shot in the head. Like you're embarrassing yourself by saying ridiculous things like this. And unfortunately, Ana, they've kind of trained their audience to want this. They want some sort of criticism of Donald Trump under any and all circumstances. But guys, there's a billion things to criticize him on policy. And the other
it's called audience capture. That's what happens to a lot of these people. And that's what happened to the Young Turks for a while. And now they're starting to break out of it. But audience capture is like, and that happens to a lot of YouTubers as well, where they'll see a positive response to a certain talking point, a certain direction that they take their speech. And in this case, they get a positive reaction, they get higher ratings, they get more viewership when they talk about Donald Trump in a negative sense. So they try to take that to new heights each time they talk about Donald Trump. Each time they do a new show, they're trying to see what can we say that's even worse about Donald Trump than the last time? And then you start to get to the point where the things that you're saying are just absolutely insane in the name of trying to get higher ratings, trying to get more viewership in these things. And it gets to a point where you just go too far. And even people like the Young Turks with Ana Kasparian and Cenk Uygur start to break free of the brainwashing because these people like Joy Reid and MSNBC have gone so far, in this case, about the Trump assassination attempt.
Other crazy stuff he does, and when you criticize him on those things, you lose credibility when you also criticize him for how he got shot.
Thanks for watching. Our audience has.
Sorry, we're going to skip your ad here, Ana Kasparian.
So, I don't have a problem with them criticizing Trump at all. We criticize Trump on this show. What I have a problem with is the way that they frame things, the way they omit certain details and certain stories. It's not helpful, and it creates these ideological bubbles in the country where rather than finding common ground with both sides, we all hate each other. There's always division. It's always toxic. And I feel like it's leading the country in a really, really bad direction. What she said there was just, she said it with a straight face. I can't believe she said it. I'd be so embarrassed if I was on the record saying something like that. But anyway, as we know, yesterday it was confirmed that President Biden tested positive for COVID. This is the third time in the past 2 years that he has tested positive for COVID. Here's what he wrote on Twitter.
That safe and effective thing didn't work out too well, did it? I feel like it's only the people that shilled for the jab that get that virus that often, and they're also so proud of it every single time they get it. They have to announce it on Twitter whenever they get diagnosed with it, even though they shilled for the jab and said that it was safe and effective, and that if you got it, you wouldn't be getting the virus. It's crazy how that works, right?
I tested positive for COVID-19 this afternoon, but I am feeling good and thank everyone for the well wishes. I will be isolating as I recover, and during this time, I will continue to work to get the job done for the American people. Now, during MSNBC's coverage of the RNC yesterday, former White House press secretary Jen Psaki argued that it's actually going to be pretty difficult for Biden to show Democrats that he's up to the task, and that is what ultimately led to Joy Reid's interjection. Let's watch.
They have a more immediate challenge right now, which is projecting to the Democratic Party he's inevitable and he's up to this job.
Yeah, well, here's the question that I have on that. These two men are both elderly. Donald Trump is an elderly man who, for whatever reason, was given 9 seconds to take a iconic photo op during an active shooter situation. Weird situation. We'll figure that out one day. But his survival of that and bouncing right back and going right to his convention is being conveyed in the media world as a sign of strength. This current president of the United States is 81 years old and has COVID. Should he be fine in a couple of days? Doesn't that convey exactly the same thing? That he's strong enough, older than Trump, to have gotten something that used to really be fatal to people his age. So if he does fine out of it and comes back and is able to do rallies, isn't that exactly the same?
It should.
I mean, it's not exactly the same. It's not the same incident, but it's an elderly man coming through out of an illness.
It should.
It's funny because Jen Psaki's face was like, what are you saying? Please stop talking. But then she says it should.
Of course, she does want to embarrass her colleague there. But I mean, it was a huge cringe moment. I don't think that the MSNBC hosts understand how unhinged they sound. And they lost the thread a long time ago. And so guys, remember, is a dozen years ago that I'm at MSNBC as a host, and they tell me specifically, don't criticize Democrats. So that's the nature of this network. That's the culture of this network. And that's literally the guidelines of this network. So if you do that for another dozen years after I left, this is the end result, where they're so ensconced in their own bubble that they think, well, doesn't everyone irrationally just hate Donald Trump? And because there's, as I've said 100 times, there's plenty of rational reasons to hate Donald Trump. But when you get into the irrational and like, oh yeah, no big deal that he got shot in the ear. Oh yeah, missed his and killed him. Could have killed him if it went an inch the other way. No big deal. It's like getting a guy having a cold. Same thing. You sound ridiculous.
Okay,
you sound like a lunatic.
You just touched on something that I've been wanting to articulate on the show for some time now. Now's a perfect time to say it, guys. I don't want Democrats to turn into everything they hate about their political opponents. And I feel like that's what's happening.
That's a great point, Ed.
Right? Like, I don't want to be that. I want to be better than that, right? Like, I don't want to dabble in conspiracies. I don't want to dehumanize people on the other side. I don't want to brush off an assassination attempt. Can you guys imagine if someone tried to kill you? You knew that there were people out there who literally wanted to kill you, and one person got real close. That is a traumatic experience. No one.
It is, and it's nothing. There's nothing like that, you know. It really is indefensible, as this Young Turks video title says, for Joy Reid to say Joe Biden getting a virus, you know, a cold, is comparable to Donald Trump getting shot in the head, inches away from death. I'm sure he's seen the clips over and over again of how if he didn't turn his head in the perfect way at the perfect time, he would be dead right now. He would have died in front of everybody. He would have got shot. I'm sure he's seen that over and over again, and living through that moment is probably very traumatizing for him. And he's shown tremendous strength, whether you like him or not. He's shown great strength through that trauma. Let me know in the comments what you think about Ana Kasparian and Cenk Uygur going after woke lunatic Joy Reid on MSNBC for trying to say that Donald Trump getting shot is the same thing. The Donald Trump assassination attempt is the same thing as Joe Biden getting a virus. Let me know in the comments what you think about this whole Ana Kasparian and Young Turks situation.